All right. What is up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Lifting, Running, and Living with your favorite still coaches. Kelly,
Yes. Hello.
hey, thanks for the confirmation. And JK, that is me. We are kicking off episode number 63. And our athletic topic today, lifting, I don't know why I just blanked on how I was going to describe that, but basically our fitness focused topic today is
Yes.
going to be talking about tips for attending a road race as a supporter or spectator. Thought that might be a cool thing
Yeah.
to talk about, and you'll soon hear how that might be related to some updates here too. So without further delay, let me kick it over to Kelly. So Kelly, why don't you update us? What have you been up to since we last spoke?
Yeah. So since we last spoke, I went to Baltimore this past weekend. If the listeners have been listening, they might recall I've been training my brother, my youngest brother, for his first marathon, and he chose the Baltimore
Yeah.
Marathon, which we're from Catonsville, which is right outside of Baltimore. So it was a dual trip, visit my parents, obviously him too, and then support him in the marathon.
Like him too. Yeah.
Yeah, him too. So that happened this past weekend, and the week before I went, so it was after we last recorded. I decided I was gonna sign up for the 5K
Yeah.
because this.
Because why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear the cats?
I did hear that, and if I had not known it was a cat, I would be looking for you on the next episode of like Dateline NBC. But since I know, I'm not phased, and
No.
I'm moving right on.
I shut my door so because Birdie and Pumpkin were in here and now they're out
Mm.
there and I think they're fighting.
Oh,
Anyway, if anyone hears that, I have 3 cats and they don't get along. Um, so where was I? So after we last recorded, so when we last recorded, I was thinking about signing up for the 5K. So this race weekend, it's not just the marathon, which is pretty common, you know. It's the Baltimore Running Festival. So they had marathon, half marathon, 10K, and a 5K. So I was just kind of looking at the race details to familiarize myself with the marathon. And then I was like, let me look at this 5K and see, like, is it feasible? Because when I went back in June to support him in his half marathon, the 5K was the day before. So I was considering it. And then I was like, I would have to fly out a day prior. And then that's like a whole thing.
okay.
The 5K for this race started a half hour before he started. So I was like, that's kind of nice because in June for the half marathon, uh, him and his buddies were late to the start.
Mm. Yeah, I think I
uh,
remember you mentioning
yeah.
that.
Yeah, because we didn't know the traffic would be so bad on the
Right.
side streets to get to the start. And if the listeners didn't listen, everything was fine. They were like many corrals back, so they didn't miss their start by any means, but I think it was more stressful than it had to be for him. So I was like, this could be a dual purpose because we'll have to park earlier for me to get to the 5K in order to warm up and be situated, which
Mhm.
also means we'll get a closer parking spot for him to get to his start and then like after the race. So that'll be nicer. So I texted him and I was like, do you care if I run the 5K? Because I didn't want to take away from his weekend, and because it's not about me. uh, so he was like, yeah, I don't care at all. So I signed up, and that's going to be my main update. I'm going to talk about his race as we get to the topic. So the listeners, they're like, you didn't want to make this about yourself, and now you're not telling us about his race. I will.
Yep. We'll cover
But
that. We'll
yeah,
weave it in. Yeah.
we'll weave it in. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that is the main topic. But yeah, because I have a race this coming Sunday, my first 5K
Oh,
in Denver
okay.
of my little fall, winter, whatever season.
Mhm.
Uh, so I was like, it might be nice to jump into sea level, see how it is. I haven't raced in Maryland since college, which is
Okay.
kind of funny. Um, and I was like, I've been having some really good workouts on Wednesday track days, and then my weekend like tempo threshold, sometimes time trial. So I was really curious how it would go. So going to the race, well, I guess let me back up. Going out to Baltimore, I chose the first flight out because I was like, this is a great idea. It'll be first flight. You probably won't get delayed. And then I was planning to work when I got there. And then I don't know if you've done this. You sign up for the first flight and you're like, this is an excellent idea. And then you're setting your alarm the night before and you're like, I have to wake up at 3 a.m. to drive to the airport to get there
No.
in time. No? I mean, you wake up that early
I was, I
sometimes
was like,
normally.
yeah, I wake up early, and also if I'm traveling by myself, I typically am driven by the lowest price. That's a whole
That's
different.
usually the first.
That's a whole different podcast episode. I will do crazy things to get the lowest
Oh,
price.
speaking
Yeah,
of, my brother did a red eye. And I was like, thank God you're
yeah,
29.
yeah, yeah.
um anyway, so yeah. Then I quickly realized I would not be working that day. So luckily I'd asked my boss like a couple days prior. I was like, I can work a half day if I need, but is it cool if I just like take the day? She was like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
Um
nice.
yeah, so Friday was Chris was recuperating from his red eye and sleeping half the day. And then we had to go to the Inner Harbor, which is downtown Baltimore, to the expo, which was a whole thing because it's Friday, Friday afternoon,
Hmm.
lots of traffic. And then just kind of getting situated for the race the next morning. So Saturday was our races. Mine was 7:30, his was at 8. So we did not want the same thing to happen as last year. Not last year,
Right.
June.
Yeah.
When we yeah. So we left the house at 6 Eastern time, obviously. Uh, it was a
Thanks.
brutal.
Thanks for that clarification. My
I
goodness. All right.
know. Well, okay, because basically 2 days in a row, I woke up at like 3 a.m. Denver
Yeah,
time.
that's fair.
Uh, yeah, so it was brutal. So then that leads me to my race. There is a point to this. I was unsure how it would go because normally I race on the West Coast, which is a
Hmm.
much gentler conversion. There's more time in the morning because I'm used to waking up later versus East Coast, you lose 2 hours and you wake
Yeah.
up at a heinous hour mountain time and then have to run really hard. Um, and so we get there, we get a great parking spot, all as well. And then I jog over to the start. I'm at the start way too early. I had a half hour after I jogged
Oh
over, which
wow.
was like, yeah. Well,
Okay.
because I got anxious because we got
Hmm.
parked really early, and then the porta potties in the parking lot had run out of toilet paper already,
Oh wow.
and I was like, I need to go to the bathroom, so I
Yeah.
need to run over to the start to get to like the big line of porta potties. And I got there, and then I had 30 minutes, and I was like, oh no, what do I do now for 30
Gotcha.
minutes? um So then I was just thinking about like what do I want to do in this race? Because I feel like obviously, obviously, my primary goal was to see how fast I could run, and hopefully that would be faster than San Diego in January when I last ran a
Hmm.
5K at sea level. But I wanted to be a little more intentional about my strategy this time while I had time. And this course was an out and back, and it was basically along Light Street and Key Highway for anyone who knows Baltimore. So it's just like right along the Inner Harbor. Um, they call it flat. There was a slight incline. I wouldn't call it a hill, but
Okay.
some people might call it a hill. Um, it wasn't super flat, but relatively speaking, it was pretty flat. So my strategy that I wanted to test out for the race, which was really nice in this out and back, was to go out the first half pretty controlled, but still running hard, which I always find challenging at sea level because it just feels so different than at altitude that sometimes I don't know, like, am I pushing hard enough? Like, I don't know what pace matches the effort I'm feeling because I do all
Yeah.
my workouts here, right? Uh, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to just run controlled but hard. I'm gonna check my watch at mile 1 as a spot check to see like what pace am I running. And when we hit mile 1, I saw like low sevens, and I was like, cool. I'll need to speed up a bit to beat San Diego's time, but that's like where I want to be. And then in the second half, my goal was to just start hunting people because
Hmm.
historically, I'm not very aggressive. Even though I've talked about
Okay.
being competitive, that usually
Right.
doesn't kick in until I see the finish. So, I wanted to practice being more aggressive farther out and to see how that would go. Because one, it makes you a little more engaged in the
Yeah.
race. And yeah, like I can't, not that I can't. I historically have saved too much for a kick that
Okay.
I then wonder, like, could I run harder earlier?
Yeah.
You
If you
know?
had pushed yourself just a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's legit. I like that.
Like, if I don't wait until I can see the finish line and know that I can sprint, as hard as I can for that distance. So that was
I
my
feel like there
goal.
should be some motivational music playing behind this right now because that's a whole sermon right there. I might take that. Keep going though. I might take that.
You should, yeah. Um,
Can
okay,
you
so
push even when you don't see the finish line?
yeah, well, because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, because it's a lot about like trusting your training and trusting your ability, which is hard to do when you're trying to run faster than you've run,
Hmm.
in recent history. Um, So that's really what I wanted to practice in the second half and just that like have fun hunting people versus like running scared of like, is someone gonna pass me? Um so yeah, like I said, first mile it was low sevens, and then I checked at the halfway point and my watch said 11:50. So I did the quick math and I was like, okay, that's like low 23s, and I'd like to run 22 something was what I really wanted. So I was
Okay.
like, but I felt pretty good. So,
Yeah.
I knew I could speed up, and I was like, "Okay, this is my strategy for the second half, speed up, hunt people," which go hand in hand. If you're, like, really in the person in front of you, you're probably speeding up, um, unless they're slowing down, but, yeah, just, like, continually catching people and then just trying to push a little earlier, but then also still have a kick. So, I never saw the mile 2 and 3 marker, so I have no idea what my watch was at those times. Uh, but it was fine because I was just focused on catching the people in front of me. Um, and yeah, I think for the last mile, I I was running much harder than I usually do, and I was starting to question if I had started pushing too hard too soon.
Yeah.
Uh, you probably can relate to this, and I know other runners can. Um, but, like, it was literally like that burning feeling in your lungs had started, and I was just like, "Oh, no. Like, how long can I hold this?" But then I
Yeah.
saw the finish line, and I was like, "Okay, I'm for sure dying right now, but I can sprint this in, I think."
Yeah.
And then I ended up running, 22:30, so that was
Holla.
exciting. Yeah.
Dang. Okay.
And so the San Diego race we ran 22:46, but that course by my watch was a little short. Um, this course by my watch was a little long, which,
Okay.
assuming my watch is right, but that means I ran faster, right? Even faster than, you know, if you call that time the 5K distance, which is what I officially do, but for my own reference. So I was really happy with that. Um, and then the worst part was my start was in the Inner Harbor, and the marathon start was at Camden Yards, which is,
Hmm.
I don't know, 6 or 7 blocks, and it was on, like, the far side of
6,
Cam
7.
oh god. It was on, like, the far side of Camden Yards.
Hmm.
So, I finish because originally when I made this plan, I was like, "Okay, I'll be done in less than 25 minutes, and I'll scurry over to the start and watch Chris start his marathon." I get through the finish chute, I grab a banana and my medal, and then I see it 7:55, and I'm like, "Oh, no. I have 5 minutes to get over to the start." So
Yeah.
then I'm sprinting through the streets of Baltimore trying to get over to the start, and I see the marathon start, but I didn't see him start because it was just a giant mob.
Yeah.
Um, so I almost made perfect timing.
Almost. Okay.
So, yeah, but that yeah, it felt really good to be able to do that, and now I'm like, I don't know. There's always the questions after the race, like, "Could I have run harder?"
Hmm.
You know? Because the other thing was I had a long sleeve on, and then it was too hot, so I just carried it the whole time,
Yeah.
which is just kind of annoying and a
I was
little
gonna say,
yeah, and
gotcha.
distracting. Yeah. So there's like little things where I'm like, well, maybe if I didn't do that, I could have run a little faster, or like if I checked my watch a little more. But I don't know. All in
Okay.
all, great experience. Um, and yeah, very exciting.
I like it. All right. The well, one, congratulations on the
Thank you.
time. And two, question for you is when you talk about kind of recapping the race or going back through different things, like, oh, if I had done this a little bit differently, what could the potential outcome have been? Whether
Hmm.
it's fueling, whether it's whatever. Do you treat it more like a missed opportunities or a okay, let's recap how that went? You know what I mean? Like, I guess basically, do you feel like you tend to approach it more from a what should I have done differently, or more of a okay, now let's go back and
Hmm.
review and see what went well and what didn't, and what could we potentially look at? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it depends how I feel about the race overall. Like if I
Okay.
feel there have been 5Ks in the past where I finish and I'm like that time doesn't, I don't feel like that time reflects my current fitness level or
Okay.
like what I could have done. And that I approach more as a missed opportunity. Like, okay, well, what could have gone wrong? Like what is contributing to this time that I'm not satisfied with? Um, and then the alternative, like this past weekend's race, most of my sea level races, to be honest,
Okay.
uh, are more like I'm really happy with the race. I don't think I don't think I did anything wrong at any point. And then
Hmm.
it's more of like part of it is the post race feeling once you're out of it, when you're like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad. I totally could have run harder here," versus like a lot of people say that after a hard race,
Yeah.
but it's just cuz you're like removed from it, you know?
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, then I always think about like, okay, are there little tweaks I could make to maybe run faster in the future? Because a lot of it is like building the confidence, I think. And now
Okay.
that I'm getting more confidence with the 5K, like the strategy I went into it this time, I wouldn't have done that, my first San Diego 5K like 2 or 3 years ago, whenever that was,
Yeah.
because I didn't believe I could run as fast as I've been running.
Okay.
And now I'm like, I feel like I'm seeing progress. I'm at a point where I'm like, I know that I can run faster. Like, I know my fitness is higher than it's been in the past. So now I feel like I can play around with some strategies more, and
Yeah.
see what works and what doesn't work. Because
Makes
at a
sense.
certain point, if I want to continue progressing in the 5K, I think I will have to start taking more risks. Like I was saying, I can't just sit and wait to kick at the end and like hope
Hmm.
that I pace the rest of it properly to run the time I want, especially running, you know, the fastest time I've run in recent history is probably going to necessitate running all of the race a little more uncomfortable, and just like
Yeah.
seeing where the edge is right now.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
just curious because I think it was interesting just the way that you described like trying to use a little bit of a different strategy or kind of I looked at as that as like experimentation,
Mhm.
and then also just understanding, or at least having, I think, a decent understanding of like your psyche when it comes, or your mindset when it comes to like competitive nature and different things like that, and then challenging yourself. And I think I think that can be really interesting, especially for the like what I'll call like the lifestyle based runner, like someone who's not being
Mhm.
compensated, let's say, for
Yeah.
running and things like that. It's easy for me to identify with the person who lifts weights as
Mhm.
a lifestyle person, because that's what I am, a lifestyle person, like that sort of a thing. I'm not competing, and none of my clients are entering competitions or anything like that. So sometimes folks who are not as like don't love lifting as much, sometimes they're like, well, what keeps you really engaged in it, or what keeps you really like enjoying it so much? I'm like, well, it's, you start talking about progressive overload, and maybe if I just make this little tweak to the way that I do this particular movement and I keep that consistent, I notice these things. For me, basically the way you just broke down the running piece and doing like voluntarily doing 5Ks and
Mhm.
marathons or halves or whatever it might be, I think I see that as being like really, really similar. So that's all. Because I
Yeah.
think there's definitely folks that are out there that it's just it just reminds me or gives me an idea of being able to pass on like what you just talked about to some of my clients too, where they're like, yeah, I have a goal of running, a couple of 5Ks next year. And it's like, all right, well, we get one under your belt, and then maybe you can play around with strategy on the next one, and then you can recap, okay, well, what went well, what didn't go well, versus looking at it specifically just as, well, now let me figure out what I did wrong. It's like, well,
Yeah.
use it like anything else. Like what went well, what didn't go well, and what can you tweak next time just for fun, like just see. So that's
Yeah.
all.
And I
So I
think
was
I think
curious about.
especially for the 5K, I feel I probably talked about this before, but like the shorter races, there obviously is less time to course correct, if you like
Mhm.
start out too conservative or the opposite, you start out too fast.
Yeah.
um, but and a lot of it is just getting used to hurting in that way for
Yeah.
that duration of time,
Yeah.
like, it is figuring out, like, what strategy works for you, and it's really hard to practice that in training until you're in a race setting, so, like, I always encourage people for the shorter distances, marathons, this doesn't work because the the tax on your body after a marathon is a lot higher, but short things like 5K, 10K, even half marathon to an extent, like, the more you can do, the better during a season. Because I think back to college,
Mhm.
it's not like you're training all fall and then you go to conferences, you know?
Mm.
You're, like, training throughout the summer, and then you're training throughout the fall, obviously, but you start your competitive season and you have, like, 8 races across 3 or 4 months, whatever it is. And the idea is, for your first couple, you're not peaking yet. You're kind of just
Yeah.
like getting back into the experience and practicing racing, especially in college where it's more of, you know, a team event and you want to try to get the highest position you can for team points. Which is kind of similar to like my hunting strategy. Like,
Yeah.
in the second half, like how many people can I take down and get in front of them? And as the season goes on, as you do more races, you get better at the strategy and the mental component. So at the end of your
Mm.
season, hopefully your fitness is also peaking at that time. But then you've
Yeah.
like learned a lot over the past couple races that you have, so you can apply it. Especially if you
Yeah.
go into it like, what can I tweak to do better versus what did I do wrong and need to correct?
Yeah. I like that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, cool.
Oh, and
All
last
right.
thing, I got second
Oh
in
yeah.
my age group, so
Oh, hey, congratulations. You rocked that. That's
yeah,
legit. Okay.
yeah. I'm in a new age group now that I'm 35, so on the
Uh,
younger end of my bracket, which is exciting.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Successful trip all the way around.
yeah,
All right. Well,
yeah.
my update's going to be a fairly quick-ish one. It'll just be a few minutes here. So the one
Okay,
thing that I will share that I've been working on this October has been what I'm calling Walktober. So the challenge is to walk 30 minutes every day for however many days I can in the month of October. And the only criteria is that it's like check it off on a little tracker sheet, whether you got it done or didn't get it done, but it doesn't all have to be done in one fell swoop. So it can be a 15-minute walk and then a 15, it can be 3 different 10-minute walks, that sort of thing. And really the inspiration for it was twofold. One, I've issued this challenge to a handful of people, some of them my clients, some of them not, just from the aspect of like, hey, why not take on a little challenge, something that's a little bit fun, get you moving each day. some of the folks that I work with that are that don't find that they really fit into the, like, 7 to 9,000 steps a day yet. Like, they're not quite there yet. And that's usually a baseline that I suggest that most people be at, is somewhere in the 7 to 9 range. That 30 minutes per day goal has been something that's been pretty helpful. And it's then the second fold. So one, it's just from not necessarily competitive, but just something kind of different to do. But then number
Mhm.
two, especially here in the central Illinois area and the Midwest and other places where there's going to be a season change, it has really, the folks who've given me feedback have given me feedback that it's been really eye-opening for them to realize how intentional they will need to be if they want to continue to get in even 15 minutes of movement every
Yeah.
day, or most days, as the weather gets a little bit colder and it's not
Mhm.
as convenient, let's say, to take a break from their desk, or, when they get to somewhere, park a little bit further away, like that sort of thing. So it's really been opening their eyes to that, so we can start thinking about those things ahead of time, as opposed to they're reporting back, yeah, I just noticed my steps have been declining as we hit like middle to end of November, and then we're trying to like figure out how to combat it then. This way we have
Mhm.
basically a whole month of what have you noticed, what's helped, and then how can it be doable.
Did you do this last year?
I did September last year,
Okay. I thought you did
because
something.
I only remember that because when I went to go make the template for the Walktober,
Yeah.
I just adjusted the template for September. So my results so far, though, what I will share, let me
Yeah.
try and pull this up here. So my results so far. So today we're recording this on October 21st. So far, out of 21 days, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so 6, 7. I have 7 days out of 21
Mm.
that I have not hit 30. So
Okay.
what's 7 out of 20? So that's 14 days I've hit it then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So 14 out of 21 days, I have hit the 30 minutes. Then, yeah, 7 of the days I've gotten at least something in. So
Mm.
those, basically the days that I get the 30, I mark that with a green mark. The days
Yeah.
that I get anything in, like if I go for a 10-minute walk, a 15-minute walk, whatever, I mark
Uh-huh.
that with yellow. And then I have one day, which was the 19th, that I marked in red, that I did not take an intentional walk at all.
Hmm.
So something I posted on my Instagram story also, though, was, don't get it twisted that means if I didn't get a 30-minute walk in, that I didn't walk at all. Like, those are days where I've still averaged probably like 12,000 steps a day. So
Okay.
it's really more about bringing awareness to what it takes to make intentional time to do something. So it's not just about walking. You could really take this, and that's my hope, and that's what I'll close out with for my portion. That's really my hope, is that people can take this concept and figure out something for the next 30 days. Like, pick a month, pick one thing, and pick, okay, or just look at, okay, let me track, if I set this goal to do this every single day, how many times can I actually do that? And more importantly, what is it taking for me to actually do that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not one of those like, well, if you don't, if you miss a day, you quit, or anything like that. So that's not
Yeah.
the thing. Yeah. And it's linked also, this is for sure the last part. It's linked to James Clear in Atomic Habits has this thing that he calls the 2-day rule. And I don't know that he's the one who thought of it. It might
Okay.
be something that's floating out in the habit space. I gotta take a drink. So I think it's just might be floating out there in the habit space, but he talks about it in Atomic Habits. And the concept is that you don't let two occurrences go by, or let's keep it really simple. You don't
Hmm.
skip a habit for more than one day. So
Right.
it's like, if I said I was going to bring my lunch to work every day
Mm-hmm.
this week, you didn't do it on Monday, you have to do it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So basically he calls it the 2-day rule, where the thought process is missing it once. Okay, you missed it once. Missing it twice teeters you more towards starting to form a new habit in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I've more adopted the 2-day rule, meaning don't miss more than two. To be quite
Yeah.
honest with you, that's how
That's
I've done it.
fair.
But yeah, I really like that thought process. I think it's just very simple, where it's just like, okay, well, if you want to frame it like get back on the horse the next day, it's not a make up for. It's just okay, I'm just going to leave one gap, not two. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I've got. All right.
How have your clients shared anything they've learned that you think would be helpful for everyone?
So far, the common theme for the ones who are reporting back, because there's definitely some who just aren't reporting back at all,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because no matter how many times I may say this isn't about like perfection, they still are like, well, wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
So so far, the ones who are reporting back or I get a chance to speak with, the very very common theme is, man, I was on a good streak for a while, and then XYZ happened. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
cool, that's awesome. So what can you do with that? Now that you know that, what can you do next time? What could you do differently next time? And more often than not, what we're finding is the biggest barrier to get through, or the biggest thing to really unpack, has totally been the all or nothing thing. There's just this like mental block
Yeah.
with truly believing that 15 minutes still matters, or that it still quote unquote like counts. That's been hands
Mhm.
down like the biggest like thing that people are like, snap, I guess I just didn't realize that. I really do look at it as, well, it wasn't, but I didn't get 30 in, so I'd feel like I failed. Like, you can feel like you failed, it doesn't mean you did, but okay.
Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
one day when you've been doing this obviously for October and we're 3 weeks in
Yeah,
now.
I actually need to
You
post it today. Forgot.
I remember one of your posts, you did an 8-minute walk, and
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, "Why am I not doing 8-minute walks?" Like,
Yeah.
it just feels like we have like a kind of a loop from my house, and it's like a mile. It's an out and
Hmm.
back. And like in my mind, if I'm going for a walk, I need to do the mile. And then I saw your 8 minutes and I was like, I don't have to. I could walk up to the playground and walk right back. And that's still
Yeah.
like getting out of my house and taking a break and just being intentional. But yeah, I relate to everyone saying that because my immediate thought was like, this is just so hard to fit in. And it's because I feel like there's an arbitrary time
Yeah.
that I need to do or distance.
Yeah, you're not alone. You're not abnormal, at least not in this case. So yeah, it's a very 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 regular thought process to have. So those
Mm,
who've like been open about communicating with that, we've been able to identify that across other things too, not just
mm,
exercise. They're finding that, oh man, this, I can kind of see how this is impacting how I handle nutrition. Because it's like,
mm,
well, I already, ate whatever I didn't plan for lunch, so I'm just going to screw it
eat
for dinner.
whatever. Yep.
Yeah. Or like sleep. I said I was
Yeah.
going to go to bed by this time, and it's already past that time. So I'll just stay up later and watch another episode. And it's like, okay. So yeah. So that's been really good. That's
Mm,
been really interesting. So
fun.
all right, let's jump into the topic here.
Spectating
Yeah, you can
slash
take
marathon
this one and
recap.
quote
Yeah.
unquote run with it. Hey. All right, go for it.
Yeah. So this will mostly apply to road races. It could apply to trail races depending on the trail race. Um, but spectating at road races is a lot more common and usually more accessible. A lot of trail races are like can be pretty remote. So you're probably not, you know, going to support your friends at every single trail race you do. So, and obviously this comes from me and my parents being spectators at my brother's marathon. And we did learn some new things that will be good to share. Um, But yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, I'll just say it again. My youngest brother just ran his first marathon. Spoiler, he finished. um, and this was like his big goal for the year. So he's been working towards it all year. And so, in terms of spectating, this this will help your runner too. One of the first things I would say is the day before, leading up to the race, review the course map and figure out where you realistically can spectate. And then tell your runner where you're going to try to see them so that they can have something to look forward to. So, in this case, the Baltimore Marathon, um, so you park near downtown, near Camden Yards, which is the baseball stadium. They head north, they loop down near the Inner Harbor, then do an out and back, run along the Inner Harbor, and then they head up north and do a big loop back to the finish. So since we were parking down near Camden Yards for the start, and that is, like I said, like 6 or 7 blocks from the Inner Harbor,
Mm.
we knew that my parents were going to see him at the start. I was aiming to see him at the start. Um, and then we were going to hang out at the Inner Harbor all day and see him around somewhere in mile 7 to 8. Uh, and then after that one back, we were going to see him again. So he knew around those areas that we were going to see him. And then we knew that's where we were going to spend the whole day. And then he also knew like the rest of the course, which kind of sucks, to be honest. We wouldn't be able to see him just
Oh,
because, yeah, because it's like it was so far. And the course, it makes a kind of circle, so you're enclosed. So like there's no way we could drive our car, to like mile 16, for example, or
okay.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even like if we had tried to get an Uber, there was a potential we would have gotten stuck in traffic from the other
Yeah.
runners.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Um, and I say that sucks because if you've run a long race, the second half is hard. It's really hard. And the longest run my brother did was 18 miles. So
Mm.
after that point, it's really unknown. So it would have been nice for him to be able to see, people he knows. But knowing that he wasn't able to see us is helpful information up front. So he's not like hopeful the whole time, like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I'll see them. Um, so that's the first thing I say, just like make a plan. Just look at the race course, see like what is feasible. And a lot of races, if they're bigger events on their race website, they'll have, you know, information on like great places to spectate or like common
Okay.
places to spectate. Um, so you can, if you're like not familiar with the area, you can use that as a guide, or just like Googling. There's probably race reports out there. So that was our plan. And then obviously we were going to try to see him at the finish because the finish line was pretty close to the Inner Harbor. So we were going to collectively stay in that spot for the full 4 hours or whatever. So that's number one. So we successfully did see him at mile 7.5 and then 12.5.
Mm.
And the second thing I'll say is see if the race has a tracker. So in our case, there was a tracker. And then along with the tracker, see when you get like time updates. So in this tracker, we got every 5 miles. So 5, 10, 15, 20 is when
Okay.
we got like the actual time he passed. And if you are going off of the tracker, which is what we did, don't only look for them when the tracker says they're like right up on you because the
Okay.
tracker could be off.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, in between the time, the intervals where you get the actual time, the tracker's just estimating where they are. It's not like a live GPS. Um, so just make sure you're looking for your runner uh, before and after the tracker thinks they're going to be there so that you don't miss them. Alternatively, if there isn't a tracker or if you don't want to rely on the tracker, if you have a Garmin, we tried to do this for my brother and we did not succeed. But you can set up live tracking to email anyone of your choosing when you start an activity. So we did that for my brother, but we didn't sync his watch to his Garmin app, so it didn't
Oh,
email me the morning of, unfortunately.
gotcha.
Yeah. Or you can use, Find My Friend if they have an iPhone, or we have Life
Oh,
360. We should have
good
added him
idea.
too.
Hmm.
Yeah. Something that has actual live tracking,
Yeah,
so
that's
you can
fair.
get a better idea. So that would be tip number 2. So we luckily actually saw him at those 2 points in the middle of the race. And he was looking good. I told him that, well, I guess back to the course, little intermission on his race experience. The first 4 miles were uphill. Very rude, but kind of nice so that he wouldn't go out too fast. That was like the main thing. I was like, don't go out too fast. Try to, you know, go out fairly comfortable. 26.2 miles is a long way. And starting up a hill, you don't want to completely demolish yourself. So started out on a hill and then went downhill till you get to the inner harbor and around. And then at mile 16, there was another hill. It was like 16 to 20, I think, 15 to 20. Um, and somewhere in the middle, there's a little steeper hill that they call Baltimore's version of Heartbreak Hill. Heartbreak Hill? Yeah, from Boston.
Oh,
Um, so, yeah, review the course with your runner. That's not something for spectators, but if you're supporting a runner, make sure they review the course so they know what to expect. So luckily we spotted him in the crowd because the other thing, it can be hard to find your runner if they're running in a big crowd.
yeah.
Um, and make note of what your runner is wearing. That might seem obvious, but when you're trying to
Yeah.
spot them, it can be really hard. My brother likes to wear the race shirt, which makes our life really hard because so do a lot of other people on
I was
race
gonna
day.
say, probably blends right on in.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, try to remember what they're wearing. If you can influence what they're wearing, try to make them wear something to make them easier to spot. Um, but yeah, anyway, so when we saw him the second time, he was looking really good. He was just cruising. And he was averaging like 9:05, 9:10 pace at this
Mm,
point. Yeah, which is just under 4 hours. And his A goal was to break 4 hours. And I didn't really doubt that he could do it. He doubted he could do it based on his last long run and how that felt. But I didn't want to push him to focus on a time goal for a first marathon.
yeah.
But I was confident he could run faster, especially in a race setting and having, aid stations every 2-ish miles versus training runs alone. You're, self-supported. You have no one around you. You're just alone.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And most of the time, unbeknownst to me, he well, he would do his runs on Sundays, um, and he liked to go out on Saturdays. So they were there were lots of hungover runs. So race day, not
Nice.
hungover,
Oh,
big
there you go.
improvement. Yeah,
Look at
uh,
that. Okay.
yeah.
Bold
So
strategy there, Cotton. Bold strategy.
no.
Okay. Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, after the second time we saw him, then we knew from that point on we wouldn't see him till the finish. So if that's the case on the course, I would say have a plan of what you're going to do in the meantime.
That's fair.
And like take care of yourself. I think it can be easy to focus on your runner, which obviously it's your runner's day, but like for a marathon, you're out there for a long time. So like we went and got food. Um and I would say just be patient because if you're going to get food, there are probably a lot of other spectators getting food.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Um so like just expect crowds if it's a crowded race
Okay.
and try to do things when you have time to do them. And what I mean by that is we were going to get food when after the start when we walked over to the inner harbor to get our position for when we would see him again. And then we saw the line was really long, and according to the tracker, he was going to be through in like 30 minutes or less.
Hmm.
And that was like the line wasn't moving, so we ultimately decided to get food after we were able to see him because the
Yeah,
priority was being able to see him. So, kind of just like do some mental math around that. Um, and
makes sense.
yeah, he was running too fast for us to get food before we saw him, basically.
Okay.
We were worried about missing him. Um, and the out and back section was like 3 miles, I think, in between. Um, did I do that math right? No, maybe it was 4 or 5 miles. Either way, it wasn't a long time between when we saw him the first time to when we would see him the second time. So we were like, we'll just wait until after. Make sure that we see him. And then after that point, because we saw him at 12 and a half, so he still had 14 miles left, something like that. Um, so we knew then we'd have, 2+ hours at that point to do whatever and would have a lot more time. So, yeah, make sure you have some sort of plan for what you're going to do because there can be long times in between when you're going to see your runner, especially you're on your runner's pace and how the course is and everything like that. Um,
I do
and
have a
then
question
my,
about that.
yeah, go for
A
it.
question. So, if you're trying to plan, is it best just generally to plan, like try to see the beginning, try to see some point at the middle, and try to see some point at the end, just like generally?
Yeah,
Or,
I would say as much as you can see them.
oh,
But
okay.
if we're going to prioritize, um, I'd say start and finish.
Okay. And I know
And
this
then
could be different depending on distance and stuff like that too. I'm sure.
yeah, yeah. And depending on like it could depend on your runner.
Hmm.
Um like if Chris had said, I don't care if you guys miss the finish. I need to see people at mile 22.
Yeah.
We could have made that happen. Um but for most people it's like start and finish. And then if there is a place somewhere in the middle where you can see them that makes sense. Um yeah. But as much as you can is great just because it really helps seeing people when you're running a hard race,
Hmm.
and just having that to look forward to. But yeah, the finish is usually the one everyone wants to see.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also at that point, they're done. So
Right.
it's more of just like seeing them actually accomplish the goal versus helping
Hmm.
them accomplish the goal.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah. So yeah, it really depends on the course too. Like a point to point obviously is much harder to spectate. Um Depending on the location of it. Boston I think is pretty good. I think the public transportation helps you get along the course to see
Okay.
people at certain points, but Boston's also, one of the biggest marathons, so they like have their
Yeah.
stuff figured out. Um but yeah. So, yeah, as much as you can see them,
Makes
for
sense.
sure.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. So then after that point, we were just following the tracker and waiting for, our updates every 5 miles while we got food. Uh, and then the last thing, actually, two more things, two more tips.
Hmm.
Uh, if you're going to see the finish line, that is probably the most common place people want to spectate. So go early to get
Ah,
your spot.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, because we walked over probably like 45 minutes early just because we were not really doing anything and done. We were like, let's go scope out where we want to spectate from. And the finish line at the time the marathon was finishing, it was also half marathoners and 10K runners, some 10K
Okay.
runners. So there were a lot of spectators, and on the barricades on both sides, it was like three deep. So we kind of just chose a spot. Yeah. The good thing is a lot of people are looking for a specific person, right?
Yeah.
So we just kind of chose a spot where we could get like too deep And then we were there early enough. We just waited for the people in front to see their person and leave, and then we just took their spot.
So that's race etiquette. Like as soon as your person is done, move.
I would say so.
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're like looking for a specific person, because
Right.
chances are everyone else also is. I know there are people who spectate just to spectate, you know?
Yeah.
In
Hmm.
that case, they probably won't move, but uh yeah, be nice to the spectators around you too. I mean, you're all trying to see someone
Yeah.
at some point. Uh so yeah, get to the finish line early and scope out your spot. And this goes along with what I was saying before, which is what we didn't do. We were glued to that tracker. So we were like, okay, he's gonna be gonna be coming through soon. And there's a final turn to get to the finish line that's like 2 blocks long. And the tracker said he wasn't even at the turn yet, and I got a notification that he finished, and we missed him because he was running much faster at this point. So
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
did skip a chunk. So we were getting our updates. Mile 15, his average pace is like 9:07 roughly. We get the
Wow.
update at mile 20, and his average for the past 5 miles was 8:52. So I'm like,
Oof.
he's feeling good, especially because
Yeah.
that 5 miles was the hill. Um, and I had told him, take your caffeine gel before that hill so that
Uh-huh.
it powers you up and then like take another caffeine gel in the 20s to get you to the finish. So he was feeling good. And I'm guessing the tracker uses the overall average time at the last point of which you got a time for the person. So it was guessing he was running low nines. And we looked at his Garmin after his last like sick 10K was like 8:45 pace or something. So he was
Oh,
he
dang.
was way
Yeah, he
ahead
was
of the
moving.
tracker.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, which is really exciting. Um, I was I was excited that he felt so good. I mean, he
Yeah.
probably wouldn't say he felt good, but like, he felt good enough to
Right.
pick it
To
up
really
at the
push it.
end.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. We did miss him though, but
That's a
ultimately
bummer.
that doesn't matter.
It
Uh,
happens. Yeah.
yeah. So learn to not depend on the tracker. We were looking while we were like spectating, in the front row for like a half hour. So we were like watching everyone go by, but it's different when you're watching and versus watching for someone, Like we were
Hmm.
like loosely looking, but not seriously looking. Um, and then the final thing I would recommend is to have a plan of where you're going to meet up after the race. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't have that. And then this race, the runners finish, and then they had like a really long finish corral where the spectators couldn't get in until you're basically at the water at the inner harbor.
Hmm.
Um, so it all is fine in the end, but it would have probably been a little better if we were like, okay, after you finish, let's all just meet here. I basically ran ahead and I was like, I'll find him and then you find me because my parents and I have a tracking app. So, and obviously we have phones to call each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say those are,
Good stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
things we learned. Oh, and his time, he ran 3:55:48. So
Under 4.
under 4, well under 4, I would say.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah,
Well,
it was
props
very
to him.
exciting. I know. I'm
And
very
and
proud of him.
to your knowledge, if I remember correctly, you said this is his only one that he plans to run.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the story he's still
As of right
sticking to.
as of right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. I think he likes to do too many other things. Like towards the end of marathon training, he had stopped other things he likes doing,
Hmm.
which will never work out long term. Like surfing, basketball, stuff like that. Him and his girlfriend like to travel a lot too, which they
Yeah.
did keep up some travel, but I'm guessing it probably added a little more stress to him knowing he was like missing training with the marathon looming ahead. Um, he did mention that I don't know if he'll want to train for them, but he mentioned shorter distances. So like he always hops in the 5Ks with me, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think he just doesn't want to run 4 days a week anymore.
Yeah. Same,
But
bro. Same.
yeah, we'll see after some time has passed. It's
Yeah.
always funny. You finish a race and you're like, I feel like the longer races, people commonly finish and are like, I'm never doing that again. And then like a few weeks later, they're looking. Um, so
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah.
I could especially see, not specifically for him, just thinking generally with
Hmm.
folks who like to travel and do races, like in places that they are not familiar with, or just look at it as a new experience. Back when I was doing Spartan races, like I enjoyed doing something like that. Like I ran, I think, one or two
Yeah.
in North Carolina because my brother lived there at the time, and I was just like, I don't know, I can go out and see him, and also I can go do this thing at the same
Yeah.
time. So why not just do something totally different just to try it? So yeah,
Yeah.
well, cool. Well, props to him, and also I think that was very well done to weave in kind of like
Oh,
real
thank
life
you.
example. Yeah, that was pretty solid. I do have one closing question.
Yeah.
That I've heard, something that I've heard people do is um send, so they'll have the person, like the runner, set their AirPods or whatever to read out text messages as they're
Ooh.
running. And
Yeah.
so then they'll like I think I first saw this when a friend of mine had, they were running an event solo, and they flat out were just like, hey, if you want to support me on this thread, and it had the tracker also, but they said, if you want to support me on this thread, anything that you text me, it'll just read it out. So it's like, it won't interrupt me or anything like that. It'll just read it out. And I thought that was actually kind of a cool thing, because they basically had it set where they had their whole playlist, but then occasionally it would just be like, yo, keep going, way to go. And then of course some people
Yeah.
put in like random comments, I'm sure, stuff like that. But I thought that was a really good idea and a way to use like new technology. Like, why not?
Yeah, I
You know?
haven't heard of that, but that's a great idea.
Yeah.
It does bring up something. I That's a good conversation to have with your runner to see like, will you be checking your text messages?
Mm,
Um, because I wasn't sure. Had I known Chris was checking his messages, had I known I would have texted him throughout in that second half, you know?
okay.
But his girlfriend was texting him and our other brother's wife was texting him. Because
Hmm.
she was texting me and she was like, I don't know if he's gonna see these all at the end. I was like, either way, like it's really nice to see them. And then
Yeah.
Chris said after the fact, he was like, yeah, I was reading Tanya's messages the whole race. So
Like on his watch or
I don't know if he was
on his
actually
actual
pulling out
phone?
his phone.
Okay. I think that's the thing that I wonder about. But yeah, again,
Yeah.
just the small sample size that I had, it totally made sense. Where it was like, well, you can
Yeah.
have, like AirPods specifically, and I know other earbuds do them too. They just read the message out to you. So
Hmm.
they change their settings specifically just for that event. I was like, that is spot on. Such a good
Yeah.
idea. So
That's a really good idea because that's
cool.
a really easy way to support when you can't see them.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when it's like remotely too. So
Mhm.
people from all over, literally all over the world, can be kind of bought in. So I think that's kind of some little extra motivation. So there you
Yeah.
go. That's my that's my only contribution to this conversation,
That's a good
basically.
contribution.
Yeah. All right. Well, good to start wrapping it up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, would you like to tell the people where they can find us? I know, smoothest transition ever.
I wasn't sure if you were gonna have some closing words or not.
No,
Um,
no, you covered it really well. I think that was solid.
Good. Hopefully it helps someone. Um, if you want, you can reach out to us on Instagram at lifting running living pod or on email at liftingrunnинglivingpod@gmail.com. Please leave a rating and review if you like the show. 5 stars only. Yeah.
Nice. All right. And with that, thank you again, folks, for listening to another episode of Lifting, Running, and Living. We will
Mm,
catch up with you next time. Thanks.
Bye.